front, all of that hoo-ha. But for GAM, you've got a Kaiser that wants to be diving into the backline, but then at the same time, you've got this front line of a Sign, you've got an Azir that can shove people around and really change how a fight pans out.
Yeah, it's a situation where I feel like Cerberus is dive outside of Azir. Even the Kaiser kind of wants to go diving for the most part. Yato is the only one that more or less kind of plays this more front-to-back type style into GAM, which I think is perfectly fine because you've got the wall to prevent dives if Ezreal or Lee Sin goes diving, even Gragas goes diving. You have ways to kind of disengage that in a situation where like Yato's got the ultimate up and readily available for it. My problem with it is if the engage is not working or if they're having difficulty engaging, Sin's getting caught up just a little bit here, a little bit of extra damage coming in from Artemis. I love Jace into Azir in the later stages of the game for the same reason that you would play something like Vel'Koz or Xerath or Ziggs into this champion, because Jace is effectively just like a siege mage in that particular case. You throw a Q, throw a Shock Blast Gate, and it's going to do 800 damage, 900 damage. It's going to take a third to half the health bar of Yato off before the fight even starts. And then you have no like front-to-back team fighter in the wrong circumstance that your dive doesn't work, right? If Rana P misses the ultimate, if Pun's ultimate isn't exactly on point, if Drakthar is down the ultimate or doesn't have flash to really set it up, it's going to be harder to try to make the dive happen, especially when Gragas is knocking people aside, Xin is here for the response and catching some of the engage. So I am curious how that dynamic kind of works out with Yato, where it's like, okay, is Yato going to go diving with the rest of the team? Is Yato just going to get sieged up on? Do they need him to play the front back 5-5? We'll see how Cerberus wants to make this happen.
Yeah, one thing to remember as well, I think, with Cerberus and having this dive composition, this is a full AP Gragas for Carti, and there's quite a few tools that GAM have available just to disrupt what could otherwise be a very cohesive dive. We've already talked about the Unbreakable, but let's not forget, you've got the Explosive Cast, you've got the Lee Sin kick, and you can just shove people away after their dive just to put them in slightly less optimal positions.
Yeah, I mean, you kick somebody out of a fight and put them into like the rest of the team as they're kind of running in, right? If Pun comes in and is in a really bad position, you end up getting kicked into Artemis or something, the fight is basically lost from the side of Cerberus, and GAM just gets a massive win in that regard. So their diving has to be really clean. And again, their front to back, I think, is harder to operate on as well, just because if Azir takes one poke ability, two poke abilities before anything else, then it's basically up to Artemis to go, kind of killing. But the one benefit to that is that there are not really massive tanks. Obviously, Braum's going to soak a bunch of damage, but outside of that, this team does. It's Jace builds damage, Lee Sin builds a decent amount of damage. Ooh,
are they going to dive this? Level 3, the decimating smash comes through. Kiaya is low, but there's just so much damage, so cleanly done. But Kiaya just takes a bit of aggro, and it's a 1-for-1 in the top lane, which Cerberus will be more than happy with.
Yeah, it is first blood. I'll say I think Pun is perfectly fine with that because he basically neutralizes the advantage. It doesn't neutralize the advantage, but does win out in just pure top lane because he gets armor, he gets a little bit more health, and it's going to be easier to kind of make that happen. I appreciate it. I am curious how he ended up taking damage here, or taking the tower aggro at the end, because he got the kill. Oh, his W! He didn't even need to put it on, I don't think, for the kill on Zombie Scion. Yeah, I was like, how did he take turret aggro? Yeah, the W did not need to activate it in any capacity, but you don't even think about that because you're just like, if you're Jace in this situation, you're like, I just need maximum damage output. If it's any other champion, does not die right there, but because it's Zombie Scion, cost him his life.
Really interesting interaction coming through, and Pun will be more than happy with how that interaction had panned out. I wonder if for Kiai, as soon as he pressed his W, he was like, oh no, why did I do that? A small bit of oversight being displayed by, well, the veteran in the top lane, right? I think our oldest tenured top laner in the VCS and arguably highest performing top laner as well. Speaking of performances, I do want to speak about Yato, because back in 2021 winter, which is pretty much when I started casting VCS, Yato had a really good split with Cerberus. They ended up winning winter split. But then in 2022, I feel like Yato dropped off a little bit. He wasn't performing at that same height. This season, though, an opportunity to kind of get back into that form that we saw in winter 2021.
Yeah, I think part of it is that this kind of setup of champions is much better for Yato. You're not taking a lot of these heavy roaming champions. You're taking a lot more standard type mages like Azir and things of that sort, which has always been Yato's wheelhouse. We always considered Yato to be just like the mage player of the VCS as opposed to anybody else. Like when a new mage champion gets released, our first like thought is always like, okay, how does Yato play the champion, right? Like that's just what we go to. And so in metas where we end up having that kind of more standard mage play where Azir is one of the big players, that usually ends up being a really big power point for Cerberus, is that Yato can play a lot more comfortable of a style of laning phase because this is the champion he's typically accustomed to. So as of this split, where they're playing a lot of those mage type champions out of the mid lane, they haven't been gooning with like Tristana mid or anything like that. Instead, they've been sticking with the standard stuff, and it's been working so far.
First wreck of the game being started up by the side of Cerberus. No Levi around to attempt to steal this one away. Flash forward from lolclips.
Nice.
Cerberus won the fight and they shuffle two members of GAM backwards. Cartilo flashes over the wall, gets that. lolclips has now died as Style makes his way into the fight, but surely Cerberus can maybe turn this one back around. The Unbreak, or pardon me, the Brawn passive stacks are coming through as in dives Levi to find one kill, and so many kills coming through. 2-4-1 as Yato slides and glides over the wall, gets to the blast code outside of the Lee Sin Q range, and Levi cannot follow up on the Sonic Wave.
Goodness gracious. It feels like Cerberus right there actually just won the fight in terms of health trade. They killed enough health for 3 champions to go down, but they just barely didn't have the target focus to bring down anybody but one, which is a really unfortunate thing. They do grab up the dragon, and this slide was super good. I mean, you're like, okay, yeah, they absolutely win this. Look at this. Artemis Flash is basically in place, doesn't quite get caught. The Ignite doesn't tick him down. They lose one right here, and then they're focusing down. Watch, Styles going to end up getting pushed out. Zin's going to end up getting pushed out. The Flash saves his life. Now here's Styles helper. Everyone's below 200 health. They just can't kill anyone fast enough. That is the massive problem that ended up coming about here. And were it not for that, again, a couple of kills, 1 or 2 here or there, would have easily sprung this in Cerberus' favor. GAM dancing ballerina style on top of Cerberus. Superior team fighting here at the beginning of the game.
And Artemis using that heal quite early on in the fight just to try to chase down Carti to get that kill. Couldn't get in range. And we also saw at the end, Yato forced to burn his flash because he wasn't sure if he was outside of the resonating strike range. Something happened in the top lane, and I'm going to presume this is Kiaya getting a solo kill.
Yes, it could be Pun getting a solo kill. We're not quite sure yet. I assume it's Kiaya getting the solo kill. Yeah, this is what I'm referring to. Like, the Jace versus Sion matchup is not fun for Sion at the beginning of the game. Now, usually he's not getting solo killed, but that is a pretty big win, I think, for one of the big contributors on GAM. As now, I mean, they win a big team fight, and they win the top lane matchup pretty handily. You got to appreciate that GAM has just been kind of crushing this early game.
And a really good start for Levi as well. 2-0-2, and now GAM are looking towards this first Rift Herald of the game before 8.5 minutes. This is going to be a lot of gold going towards someone as Cerberus are finding the pick on it to Carti. Empress Divide to push Carti back towards Cerberus' side of the map on the run towards the Levi, and now has the safety of his jungler. True Shot Barrage not quite going to be able to snipe down any members of Cerberus.
No, really terrifying.
Oh, Levi, that is a brave, goes under tower, but the Zenith Blade lands. RonOP to the rescue. Sadly, though, for the side of Cerberus, it is RonOP who claims the shutdown and not Draktar's Wukong.
Yeah, you just get the one kill. It's really unfortunate. That's the second time now that Yato has attempted to set up a massive play. Now bottom lane, they're going for a dive.
Artemis all on his lonesome. No Leona to CC anyone down under tower. Final tower shot won't come through onto Zin, so it is just a clean kill for the GAM bottom lane.
Man, just have not been prepared a single time. It feels like Cerberus getting run around the map by the early aggression of GAM. You don't want Cerberus to be able to kind of set their feet and get anything done. So when you're able to kind of do things like this, look how close that this was and how far that Drakthar needed to go just to try to get back in range of Kadi. Hey, goodness gracious. Yeah, like I said, it's Cerberus usually, especially against other opponents so far inside the VCS, have been able to slow down the early beginning portions of the game. I'm not sure what Yato is doing here. You probably think, oh yeah, we should be fine. He's probably not going to go diving, but it does end up costing Levi his life. But when it's traded for the support, it's just not worth it in the grand scheme. And then again, because your Leona had to roam up, you're just going to punish Artemis under the tower. It's a level 5 Kaista. Zin just wraps around on him and says, okay, I don't really care. Nothing bad is going to happen. We're just going to kill Artemis underneath the tower, and it's not going to matter even if he misses this minion wave and we trade lives. I think that's more than worth it. Again, just not allowing Cerberus to get ready for their late game kind of scaling.
Really, really impressive start to the game from GAM, who now find themselves with a 2.5k goal lead over Cerberus at 10 minutes into the game, and we've got another Drake spawning in just under a minute. It will be the Mountain, and Cerberus were able to secure that first Drake of the game. We'll see whether they can maybe get some Drake stacks going as Rifttrail dropped in the bottom lane. This is going to be so much gold going into the pockets of Style.
Seeing if they can break the third plate before the Rift Herald ends up charging here. It doesn't look like that's going to be the case, so it will just be almost 2 plates going down and almost taking 4 plates off this tower completely. The early game dominance of Levi cannot be understated so far. Levi has just done everything right. Attacking the top lane, trying to set up so that Pun is not going to be in a good situation, setting up the mid lane, being at the defense of the Gragas consistently, being the primary team fighter, I think. It's been miraculous, again, kind of pushing just how fast that the game is going here for GAM. Just off the back of this one Lee Sin pick. It's not often that we talk about Levi as much anymore. Obviously, Levi has been the captain of this team for such a long time. I think it's been super easy to be like, okay, Styles popped up as being really good. Kadi and Kiaya stepped up as really, really big contributors for the team as well. But when they need him, like, he is still a lich bin. Levi is still an absolute Chad in the right circumstances.
And I feel like to kind of go further onto this Levi point, I remember back in 2022, we were talking a lot as just cover here. Kiaya getting caught out, trying to run out to safety. I don't know where he's going to go. Drakthar ends up picking up the kill, his first off the game. But to go back to Levi, I feel like last season he got a little bit overshadowed by BJ, and we were talking about BJ, you know, being this new big jungler. And we've been saying it for a couple of years, but last season was the season where he really came into his own. And Levi this season showing, no, look, I'm always going to be at the very top. I'm always in the discussion as the best jungler and always so incredibly consistent.
Oh, this is the replay of what happened. It's gonna go, yeah. It's a solid kind of gank from Drakthar, because Drakthar was trying to find something to do on the map with the other side. Levi is so strong, it's impossible to play around neutral objectives when Levi shows up. So it's like, what are we supposed to do, right? Like, well, you just attack the other side of the map. You try to get something going. You do shut down the Jace a little bit. You try to get your Scion a little bit tankier so that it's easier. It is going to be difficult for them to break through the Scion eventually. Coming back again, Levi also, when I first started casting here, was also this like super hyper carry. He was playing really heavy farming champions, like he had the Karthus, you had the Lilia. Eventually, it kind of came into the repertoire as well, and these were the champions that he was known as. And slowly over time, really kind of embraced a lot more of the early ganking champions, a lot more of the stuff to set up his team. I think Levi has gained a very, very heavy appreciation for a lot of his teammates over the last 2 years, ever since I think everybody's really been ingrained in the positions that they're in right now for the squad. So for Levi, the personal growth of just like going from, I am the main character, I will be doing everything, to being, he's still the main character, but he is also able to make this supporting role work so effectively when GAM is out on the map and they're able to set up a lot of these solo lanes that you're looking for.
We so often see Levi's, the Karthus. We remember back to the Noct and those big farming junglers. But as we always like to say, in the VCS, if you want to prove yourself as a jungler, it's on the Lee Sin. Every single Vietnamese jungler is just a master of Lee Sin in some capacity. And Levi is the one on the Blind Monk this game. For now, though, we've got a little bit of downtime in the sense that 3 minutes until the next Drake is up, and GAM can just slowly start to push their leads, pick up any last remaining plates before we hit that 14-minute mark.
Yeah, so taking stock of where we're at right now, I do appreciate that Yato has actually gone for Crown. I think it's beneficial in that if he gets hit by just even a single stray Q from either the Jace or from the Ezreal, it will protect him from making sure that that's not just going to take him out of a fight immediately. So for Yato, I get this one. I do think it hinders your damage a little bit until the completion of your second item, but it's not really the biggest deal. They're probably not going to be looking to fight very, very quickly as it is right now for the side of Cerberus. You need time for Artemis to bake a little bit more too, because Artemis in this one also is still going to be one of your big team fighters. You've got the Kraken Slayer now. I really think that you need a lot more upfront damage as Artemis here, just because you want to be able to just take somebody out if you hit them with an ability, right? If it's Gragas or if it's Levi jumping into the front line, you want to be able to bring somebody down to their knees very, very quickly as Artemis. So while the lethal tempo and having like this kind of overtime damage is going to be useful, they do have to be careful because, again, one Shock Blast takes Artemis out of the fight, one kick takes Artemis out of the fight. There's a lot of danger here for Artemis that you have to be very wary of.
And GAM now picking up their second Rift Herald of the game, and at the same time pushing forward in the mid lane, and Artemis is already on half health. Teleport flank coming through from the side of Cerberus. Solar Flare will get the slow onto Star, but Zin is caught on the wrong side of the map, forced to flash away, but can't get away from Yado, who in turn flashes over the wall. Rollo piece so low from the damage from Kiaya. Shock Blast does so much work onto Artemis' health bar, as in the backline, Pun shows up way too late to the party, and nobody else from Cerberus got an invitation. It's a free kill for the side of GAM and their 8th kill of the game.
And in this particular circumstance, this is what I was talking about. If you're Artemis right here, you cannot find a way into the back line. It was like Ron OP who's kind of getting brought down before anything else, trying to find some sort of angle into Kiaya. The fight was split on two fronts from Cerberus. Pun went in on one side alongside Yado, trying to find a scoop onto the support. And now they're just getting bullied out. Like, look at this. They grabbed the Rift Herald. They snowballed it into 2 mid lane towers off the back of that siege. How is it that Cerberus is able to make the dive happen? Because look, they get an angle on Zin. They don't quite get him over the wall, which I think is what they were looking for. Watch this. Yado can't even get him over top of the wall. And then Ron OP goes flanking on the other side to look for something. Style and Kiaya are right there. They drive him out. There's a single Q. There's a second Q, and Artemis is out of the fight now too. Like, what are you supposed to do? Your damage is already gone. Like, Yado is the best thing that you've got until this point. And Yado is on crown right now. He's not have the damage to full carry a fight. It's a really rough circumstance for Cerberus, because again, this is a dive composition. They want to be pushing kind of the pace of how these fights are playing out. And Artemis just doesn't have the goal to make that happen. This team doesn't have the goal to make that happen.
They want to dive, but the swimming pool is just not deep enough. So every time they jump off the springboard, they just fall through the water and hit the bottom of the swimming pool, and bad things happen.
Bad things happen. They run head first into the concrete, I believe is what you're trying to say.
Yes, exactly.
Yes. That is the third dragon, or second. Oh, it's third dragon of the game. It's second dragon here. That was the one thing that Cerberus did do right, is that first dragon went to them. I think had that fight not gone poorly and they hadn't lost like 3-4 members and kind of made Levi into this absolute beast and set up the rest of the team for massive success, I do wonder if this game would have been a lot different, just in hindsight, because getting back to a place where they're going to be as competitive as they need to be in a game like this, I feel like is so difficult now for Cerberus, trying to find a way that it feels like they need a fight win. That's the only thing that really digs them out of a bad situation. I don't know that they're going to be able to sit and scale. They're going to try it now.
They need a fight when they're going in for the fight. Here comes the choo-choo train on the other side of the fight.
Oh my
There's a teleport coming through as well. Glacial Fissure. Drakthar has already fallen. Nice shuffle from Yado, but it is not going to be enough. Cerberus' wallets are just nowhere near big enough, and GAM are just going to run through Cerberus. Sure, Style will fall, but it will still be an ace, and Pun V9 is going to be attempted, but that Scion is just not quite tanky enough.
Like, they just don't have damage. Like, they don't have it. It's not there. Like, if you're Yado and you're throwing soldiers in, you're getting a couple, like maybe 100 damage per auto attack in. Artemis is able to kind of spike single members down, but it takes them a second to get ramped up inside of fights. And because of this, Cerberus' fight just looks so disastrous. Look at this. They get a decent pick on Zin. The shuffle is actually awful, in my opinion. Like, this is terrible. Look, he just shoves him right on top of Artemis in a half health, like, Ron OP. Like, Artemis dies because of that. Like, I don't know what Yado's thought process was there. I feel like you just slam the door and you walk away and you try to take one kill. Maybe you buy space for Artemis to kind of step up in the pocket and be able to auto attack whoever's still remaining, but that was not it, Chief. This game has felt so disjoint from the side of Cerberus. It's a very rare look at a team fight that doesn't feel like they're communicating properly. And for a team that's been together as long as they have, I don't know what's happening here. It feels like they got jabbed at the beginning of the game and just have never recovered from it.
It was a pretty powerful jab, though, to be honest. That fight at the Drake, it just pushed them behind. And this is a really good composition as well for GAM to snowball with. When Ezreal Q start hitting like a truck, when you've got these shock blasts from Kiaya's Jace, it's just so hard to deal with this much poke, especially when Pun isn't at the fight beforehand. So you've got no Scion to really tank up all of that damage.
Yeah, in this game right now, I mean, you can actually see Artemis is so unable to do damage. He's behind his own support. That's just Pun getting caught. I think they were looking for a flank of some kind. Are we going in or are we not going in? Okay.
No, Pun's just dead.
I mean, Artemis was out of mid lane still running up. I'm not sure what Pun was doing. And then, like, Yado's on the other side of the map right now. Like, again, this is a super disjoint game, it feels like, from the side of Cerberus. It doesn't feel like they're communicating super effectively. They are not setting up for team fights. They're not setting up their Artemis win condition in any capacity whatsoever. This is not a look for Cerberus that they have been showing for the majority of the split. For GAM, the fact that they were able to kind of dismantle Cerberus this quickly really speaks to their level. I was worried walking into the split that it was not going to be the best GAM that we've ever seen, but they actually are still playing incredibly good League of Legends.
And going to what you were saying, yes, Cerberus have looked disjointed. They haven't been able to play to this Artemis win condition, but is that really a fault of Cerberus, or is that just GAM doing a really good job of shutting them out? As, again, another engage from Ron OP. Cerberus are desperate trying to find an engage. Ki just kills Artemis 1v1 on the side of the fight. Levi gets the kill onto Ron OP. It's already 2 kills for the side of GAM. Pun left with nowhere to go, and Drakthar Yado are the stragglers. Yado drags Levi with him, and it's a double kill for the GAM jungler. Pun is going to fall as well. Stahl will pick up that kill, and it is only Drakthar who is left standing.
Yeah, I mean, Draktar's going to get spotted out here. He's going to get chased down by Gragas if that's what they really want to do. Okay, yeah, they're going to see that he basically walked towards the base. They don't care that he's leaving, though. Like, they just want the Baron buff. I'm going to come back to your question. I don't think that anything that just happened needs to be spoken to in the slightest. Like I said, Cerberus, while they've looked disastrous, GAM has been playing really well. Like I said, I think Levi has commanded this game extremely effectively. If you look, it's 15 of 18 kills. It's actually the same for Ezreal as well, so like the two of them. Look at this. How is Artemis in a position where Ki is able to run at him effectively? Like, there's 3 members right next to you with like Pun and Yado and Drakthar, and somehow Artemis is just being singled out here by like one of the main damage dealers. How does that even happen? Again, it feels like right now Cerberus is not actually doing what they need to be doing. Like I said, they feel disjoint, which GAM, I'll give them a bunch of credit. If they're the ones that are causing this by just how fast they're playing the game, good on them. But again, it is not exclusively GAM's fault that Cerberus is doing this. Again, ever since that first fight, it seems like just Cerberus has not been on the same page as one another. So hopefully game 2, they can kind of come back together. They can put themselves in a solid place, kind of reorient themselves a little bit, because they're a little bit off in this one. GAM, taking advantage of a team that doesn't have the level of communication you're looking for is not always the easiest thing in the world, but they have made it look so simple to just absolutely devastate Cerberus here.
And it's a weird thing as well with Spring 2023, the fact that there's a few teams that have been together for a while, right? You're looking at Team Secret, you're looking at Saigon Buffalo, and now Cerberus, who are struggling with this communication aspect. I say Cerberus struggling. They are 2-0 in the standings. They are doing well.
Yeah.
You would expect it to be the other way around, right? The newer team struggling at the start of the season and then slowly ramping up as the season progresses and looking at their top form once you get towards player 4, the second half of the round robin.
Yeah, something like that. But I mean, Flash has showed us the opposite of that. Out of fairness, Flash is kind of like 3 pieces of a team that have also been together for a ridiculous amount of time. I don't feel like we need
to engage. They're looking for Carti. Carti down to half health. The Cyclone comes through. Carti is low, but will not fall. And surely Cerberus, this is going to be their last hurrah. Ronop's on the side. He's got no way of getting into the play. It's just the 1 kill for the side of GAM as Yado and now Pun falls 2-0 for GAM as they push on in the bottom lane with beautiful Baron-empowered minions at their disposal.
Yeah, this game was like, they definitely got out-muscled at the very beginning, but even if you get to this stage of the game and you're relatively close in gold, the only thing you can hope for is kind of big one-shot potential coming out of Kai'Sa and the rest of the team. This is a whole... No, it's not.
Levi will fall to the tower damage, but the rest of the GAM will show up a clutch. That's the ace for the side of GAM at 24 minutes. The final Nexus tower will fall. I don't know if Stahl can do this. There's a teleport coming through. This is going to be a 2v2, and there are Baron-empowered minions. There's going to be a wave of minions on the top side as well. The GAM don't even want that. Stahl kiting back. Yado finding a fair bit of a damage, and here comes Heal this time. Stahl ends up getting the kill.
No!
The Pun is a push towards Style. Style will fall. And Carti and Xin will do the work onto the Nexus. Surely Ronopi is showing up, but it is a 2 tanks and there is a too much damage. Artemis will get 1 kill. Xin, surely this Nexus falls. There are too many minions. It's not possible that this Nexus doesn't die, but Cerberus somehow keep the game alive.
Oh my goodness. This is just the time waster. Like, the Nexus is dead. Your middle inhibitor is going to go down. Like, the mid inhibitor tower just felt like all they have to do is wait for 5 members and then walk into the base. That's all that needs to happen here from the side of GAM. Cerberus somehow make that last final miraculous hold. I just don't think it matters all that much. It's not going to make you get back into a game. You're basically an item down on every champion in the entire game right now. So we're just waiting for death here from the side of Cerberus to fix out their early game and everything else. GAM popped off. I got to appreciate Xin catching a little bit of assistance there to make sure that Ezreal was not going to get outdid by Yato. Yato came real close to beating out the Ezreal in the 1v1 there for a second, but Xin came in and ruined everything.
We say 1v1, but it was like Styles' third 1v1.
Yeah, it was like,
he needed a drink.
He really did need a drink. So Xin, I guess, tapped him out for just a 10th of a second so that he could catch his breath, and then got him right back into fighting shape. Nothing crazy about that one. And here they are. They can walk up as 5. They've got their members. They're going to look for the inhibitor. It's just going to be one more big fight.
You know when you see those all-for-one games and someone picks Sion, and then they all 5-man Sion ult into the base? This is what GAM could go for right now. Levi has a stopwatch, goes golden. However, Drakthar able to get the kill onto Levi, and Cerberus maybe just holding on a little bit harder than we expected. Pun will fall. Cerberus are now retreating into their base. This is a 4v4. Levi is down, and GAM are looking for the final inhibitor.
And this is where I think this is especially where Cerberus' composition is going to get bullied, because now Style and Kiaya can just kind of throw damage. Even Kadi can just throw damage at this team, and there's not much they can do because they have to wave clear the entire time. Yeah, look at that. They just jump on Yato.
Poor Yato. So many minions. So much damage from the side of GAM. Wow, that shock blast didn't work. Down goes Yato, and this time the Nexus will well and truly fall. A 27-minute win for GAM against Cerberus.
A really solid win from GAM coming in from